Man, I was listening to one of Hank Parker's podcasts the other day. You won't believe what he said. You ready to run a gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. Truck talk fussing time. First off, before I even do anything, I like Hank Parker. Okay, I always have. I always liked old Hank. He's a knowledgeable dude. But he said something the other day really rubbed me the wrong way. He was talking to a guy who was an outdoor writer, had been for years. And Hank was talking about a fellow that he knew who hadn't been fishing probably in 40 years and is retired and wanted to get back into it. He said he picked up his stuff, his old rod and reel, stuff like that. He says, Hank, them things weigh a ton compared to what's out there now. And Hank made this comment. Well, the old stuff we used to use like that is primitive now. Hank. Now, I understand, sponsorships and you got to sell stuff and, there's loos that he pushes and everything. I understand that. But you don't have to say stuff like that because look at all the guys that still use the old stuff. I mean, me personally, I've gotten my hands on a couple of 1969 Mitchell 301 spinning reels, and I went ahead and bought rod blanks, two-piece rod blanks, and I'm going to build those rod blanks in a 1970s format with the different chevron wrappings and everything, just for fun. But those reels are indestructible. I mean, are they the smoothest? No, they're not the smoothest compared to today. Of course not. But you can't kill them. I don't agree with that. Old stuff is primitive. Primitive pretty much means it's obsolete. And I don't agree with that. I mean, some of my favorite reels of all time is a Daiwa PS10. Circa 1982. Got a bunch of those. Shoot, I even got a bunch of the Millionaire 3Rs from the 70s, the red ones, with the little side control. I rebuilt one on this channel about a year or two back. But I love those things, and you can't kill them. Just like an Abu Garcia, the old Abu Garcias, man, you can't kill them. But they're primitive. I have gotten broken rods in the mail from eBay before. Wow, shocker on that, huh? But just recently, I had gotten in it was an old Daiwa Procaster from around 1980. And it was a graphite composite, which means it's fiberglass graphite. And I had a medium, and this was a medium light, 5.5 foot pistol grip. And I just wanted it to have a little bit lighter rod to throw crankbaits on. Just whenever I want to have fun, take them out. Well, it was broken about a foot above where the reel seat was. So I went ahead and cut it off. And I've already rebuilt it. I'll show you guys that rod down the road. But the rod blank itself, even with the guides on it, it didn't hardly weigh anything. The weight was in the handle with the rubber grip and all that stuff. That's your weight. This is the way I look at something being heavy, okay? This is the way I look at something being heavy. If you're holding a rod and reel in your hand, and that rod itself, extending from your hand, is heavy, that to me is a heavy rod. But if you grab an old rod like that with a, let's say an Abu 4600, you grab that thing, you hold it in your hand, it's like, it kind of feels heavy in your hand, but you take that rod and you start whipping it and it'll feel like nothing in your hand, that's a light rod. And people they have misconceptions about that. Well, because the whole unit is heavy in your hand, that's a heavy rod. No, the blank doesn't weigh anything. That's just a misconception, and it's also a freaking selling point for guys that are sponsored by other rod and reel companies. And I understand marketing. I understand that. But don't just sit there and just, all that stuff's primitive, man. You need to get the new stuff. It's the new stuff you need to get. Why? Most of it's made in the same plant anyway, especially with plastic parts. Most of your rod blanks, unless you really want, here's something else. How many of you guys are aware that a lot of the rods that you buy, including, we're talking $100, $150 up to that point, how many of you guys are aware that they actually use cork tape in the reel seats? Now, granted, they put epoxy on it, or in theory, they put epoxy on it and set the reel seat in place. Okay. But there's one problem, is that the cork is cost effective. It's easy to work with. It's easy to shape, so you can get it down to the size you need it. But it stays soft. And even though you put epoxy on that, it's still soft. I use a very durable 3M masking tape that's about that wide that I use on my grips when I build rods. Majority of the time, the reel seats I have fit the blank. But if you build a spinning rod, now you got to start doing that if you're using a reel seat. Or you might need to fill a little bit in for the handle in the back or something like that. But that stuff's hard. And once you put epoxy on there, it doesn't give. But you guys be surprised, even in some of them expensive rods you're buying, you got cork tape in them things. And it will eventually break down, because I've had them do it. It will eventually break down. I mean, I had a Bill Dance rod, Quantum. This is when he made the American series. And right out of the package, I went to screw a reel on there to try it out in the backyard, and the reel seat came loose. They had very little to no epoxy on that reel seat. There you go. I just did the heck with it, took it off, put a different reel seat on there, rebuilt the bottom half of the rod, left the rest of it stock. Love that rod. But primitive. I just can't believe, honestly can't believe Hank Parker would say that. I'm not mad at him for it. And I'm not going to call him a big dodo bird for it. But come on, man. Have you looked on eBay recently on vintage reels and vintage rods to see what the prices are going nowadays? But they're primitive. But people know they still work. And they're indestructible pretty much. I've done enough fussing on that. But let me just end this with, I'm not mad at Hank, and I'm not bashing Hank at all. I'm just disagreeing with the comment that he made. And maybe some of you guys caught that podcast. It came out like a couple of weeks ago. Maybe some of y'all caught that. And maybe some of you didn't. And I'm sure some of you guys are sitting there calling me a moron and agreeing with Hank. That's fine. But I know a lot of you guys that watch my channel like a lot of the vintage stuff. And you might not appreciate that comment too much. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just giving my 2 cents and getting my little bit of fussing in. Because when it comes to truck talks, it is infinite wisdom, which means bupkis. My new catch line. So anyway, guys, until next time, remember, new techniques are trendy, but bass never change. May the Father bless you and keep in Yeshua's name, and as always, fish on.